Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of This Week in Niche Pursuits News. And Google has finally finished the March core update. They announced it about a week after they actually finished, but we're going to dive into what happened now that the rollout is complete of one of the longest Google updates ever. We have winners and losers. Which sites gained traffic? Which sites lost traffic? We're going to look at specific examples. We're going to pull those up. And then a lot of commentary as well. There's a couple of other commentators, I will just say, in the industry that have a couple of really, really strong opinions. One of them is somebody who lost 91% of their traffic. So we're going to talk about that. Another one is an SEO consultant that basically makes a plea to Google to do more. And so stick around for all the news. We're going to cover all of that, I promise. But in addition to that, we will also talk about Jared and I's shiny object shenanigans, a couple of side hustle projects that we're working on, trying to make a little bit of money here and there. Not our main focus, but some fun projects that we have. And then at the very end, we will have two weird niche sites. Jared and I have both found a weird niche site, and so we're going to dive into those. So having said all that, Jared, how you doing today?
Oh, doing well. We're talking, it's a little bit weird. We're talking about a Google update that finished 2 weeks ago today. Technically, the day this comes out, Friday. So it finished 2 weeks ago. They announced that it finished a week later, which was a week ago. But to some degree, it's nice because sometimes we're talking about these updates right when they finish, but we don't have much to discuss other than it's done. So we do have a week's worth of kind of analysis that people have done to talk about. So that's kind of nice.
Right. It is nice. Apparently, it finished rolling out on April 19th, but then they didn't announce it until April 26th that it had been finished. I don't know why they did that. Jared, have you ever heard of Google waiting that long to say, hey, oh, by the way, we finished a week ago?
Well, I think the search team had some mandatory furloughs, so no one was in the office when they finished rolling it out. And John Mueller, somebody got back in the office, like, oh, it's done. We should probably tell everyone, they took a week off. And so, that must have been what happened.
Vacation over at Google.
Yeah, just taking the week off. They knew the update was going to be going so long. So, no, I haven't. I'm kidding. I think that it was a long rollout, obviously, longer than normal. Normally, these things are 2 weeks. This one ended up being 6 weeks in the end or so. And then it took a while to announce that it was over. It was just a very bizarre update in general.
Right. Very bizarre. So there's lots of articles that cover this. This is just search engine land that I'm sharing on my screen here. The Google March 2024 core update rollout is now complete. And so we're going to talk about this, for a good chunk here of this podcast episode. Initially, Google said, hey, we're going to try and reduce unhelpful content by 40%. But then they said, a Google spokesperson said, the updates led to a larger quality. Let me restate that. The updates led to larger quality improvements than we originally thought. You'll now see 45% less low quality unoriginal content in search results versus the 40% improvement we expected across this work. So, the Google apparently is happy saying, hey, we reduced 45% of unhelpful content. How they measure that, they don't really tell us because they don't tell us what is helpful and what is unhelpful content. But apparently they have their internal measuring system to say, hey, we made this big reduction. We can publicly say, hey, we did all these things. The other thing, I guess, to note is that Google did create a feedback form that if you basically don't like what you've seen, you can leave feedback and go to the form. And I'd actually encourage everybody to do that. If your site saw a reduction in traffic and you feel like it shouldn't have, submit it on the feedback form. I don't know if it'll do anything or not, but that's basically the only way Google has provided for official feedback on the update. Hey everyone, Spencer here, founder of Niche Pursuits. Are you adding a new internal link pointing to each article you publish? You should be. Ever find it time-consuming and a bit overwhelming? Remembering what content you published and deciding which anchor text to use can be a real headache. What if there was a better way? Well, that's exactly why I created Link Whisper. Simply click Add Inbound Internal Links, and Link Whisper will scan your site in seconds and suggest the most relevant links with appropriate anchor text for your new article. Now simply check the box next to the internal links you want to add, and Link Whisper will add these links for you. No need to go into each article, edit, and add the link. It's already done. No more manual internal link building or guesswork. Just efficient, accurate linking that saves you time and improves your SEO. Transform your content strategy with Link Whisper. Start linking smarter, not harder. Use the coupon code PODCAST for $15 off. Head over to linkwhisper.com and use coupon code PODCAST to get $15 off. So let's see what else. Overlapping updates. Yeah, Google had kind of multiple updates. We talked about this kind of going into it. And in fact, they are now about to roll out the site reputation abuse update. That's been in the works, supposed to start May 5th as well. So there's been a lot of turmoil, updates going on. Of course, the helpful content system is now baked into the March core update. And so I guess that is maybe the big topic here that I'll shift the discussion a little bit to here, Jared, is that so many people that were hit by the helpful content update in September 2023 have been waiting for a core update that would roll back that helpful content update or would give them the opportunity to recover from that update. And unfortunately, all of the analysis done in the industry, Glenn Gabe in particular has been, posting daily on Twitter about sites that he's been following that were hit by the helpful content update. There is not a single example of a site where their penalty or their traffic was reversed, that they saw increased traffic after the March core update. So unfortunately, even though Google says, hey, the helpful content update was part of the core update, there's been no improvements for people that were hit. So that leaves a lot of question marks. And I think that is, at least when I look back at this, that is one of the biggest question marks that remains is, well, why did nobody overcome the helpful content update if this was supposed to be something that would improve that after 7-8 months?
I think it's safe to say now that probably broadly speaking, Google doesn't really know what's going on with the helpful content portion of the algorithm. And I'm not trying to say that tongue in cheek. I'm actually being honest. We look back, they've come out with statements saying that you could expect it to take several months, that it's a classifier that continuously runs. And so you could expect to make improvements and see improvements when you've fixed a majority of your content. It actually came out that Danny Sullivan had said 2 weeks at one point. Morgan Overholt shared that, and that got released and stuff. So there's definitely been language that you can get out from underneath this update. But now we are sitting at almost 9 months since the helpful content update of September 2023 launched, and not one site's moved. Not one site has moved. That means it's not possible at this point to recover from it. I guess the silver lining is that maybe that they're either lying to us or they intend for it to be recoverable and they haven't figured out how to make it recoverable. Right. But I think it's safe to say now at this point, it's not likely to recover unless they tweak something, because no one has recovered yet.
Right. And so there's so many people that were impacted, and you have to know there's varying degrees of effort. Some people have gone through massive overhauls of their entire site. And yeah, some people probably didn't do anything, but nobody made any improvement. It's a difficult pill to swallow for people that were hit. And what makes it worse is that a lot of people that were hit with the helpful content update were hit even harder with the March core update. The March core update hit a lot of people hard, both that were already hit and had not been hit previously. And so it was not a small update. A lot of people impacted, but no improvement for people hit by the helpful content update. So, but I think you make an interesting point that does Google even know how somebody could improve? I don't know. We know that they use a lot of machine learning.
Exactly.
Not one engineer knows everything that goes
Correct.
into the Google algorithm. It's a I shouldn't say cobbled, but it's a
Maybe.
massive algorithm, right? That not one single person understands. Danny Sullivan does not know what you can change on your site that is going to make it improve. He doesn't, because the engineers all by themselves don't know. There's so many different things going on that are way above my pay grade with machine learning, AI, massive scale of all this information that maybe there'll be more tweaks in the future, but we don't know where it's going to go from here.
Yeah, obviously, we can all hope that it is the former, not the latter. The latter, not the former. I'll go back. We hope that it's that they haven't figured out how to allow their algorithms for a site to make improvements and recover to some degree from it, and not just that they fully intend to wipe these sites off the map and just chose this poor way of communicating it to us.
Right.
Doesn't seem like that would be in their best interest. But at this point, 9 months in, and we'll get onto it later in the podcast. We have some other things that tie into this in the news episodes that we'll bring in, and so I don't want to steal that thunder, but certainly these thoughts, generally speaking, that we're talking about right now are pretty much echoed universally. Whether you have a quote unquote content site that was obliterated, or whether you're just participating in large scale kind of SEO that might not be in a niche that's as affected, these sentiments about kind of where are we with this is generally taken by almost everybody that I've seen.
Yep. And so we're going to talk about that in just a second, a couple of voices in the industry. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the winners and losers of the March 2024 core and spam updates. And so I'm going to just defer all of this data over to Systrix. They always put together a nice list of winners and losers after Google updates. And so some sites were hit pretty hard. So this first one here that we're looking at, biggest domain losses by percentage. Okay, so really just look at the far right hand column. For people that are watching this, you can see that like number one on the list, the biggest percent change is none other than a-z-animals.com, azanimals.com. If people don't remember, we covered that site specifically in this podcast previously. That I think it had been hit before in a previous update, and now it's apparently hit even harder. So its visibility is down over 80% just from this update, which is pretty incredible. I think they're comparing the dates of something like January to April, if I'm looking at this properly. But basically, you can see that. You can kind of go down the list here. Grammarist is down 62%. SafetyDetectives.com is down 64%. OutlookIndia.com.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to bring that up, seeing if you were going to bring it up.
I just noticed that. I was scanning through the list. And I was like, that's one many people may be familiar with. They're down 50%. They were very well known for the site reputation, sort of parasite SEO. A lot of people would publish articles on Outlook India and rank really quickly.
Got to think Outlook India might continue to drop with the update that launches on May 5th.
Yeah, most likely. It has. Any others that you wanted to look at there? I mean, there also is the biggest domain losses by absolute traffic that I also think is kind of interesting to look at here in a second. But that was the percent loss.
Yeah, no, you called the Outlook India one was the one I wanted to discuss. And then the absolute loss, I think that a lot of people might be a little surprised to see some of the health sites in there, some of the very trusted health sites in there. Mayo Clinic is up in the top 10 there. Healthline as well. Healthline's been losing in a couple updates. Remember the darling child of the 2008 Medic update. That was kind of the one we all grabbed onto to talk about. Has been sliding not just in this update, but in several recent updates.
Yeah, and then wikipedia.org. Now, of course, it's such a massive site
Yeah.
that, if it loses a few million visitors a month, it's like a blip, right? But it is up there as well. Merriam-Webster.com, Indeed.com, Britannica.com,
I don't know, Spencer. What do you
GoodHousekeeping.com.
think? Microsoft? Do you think that's a little gamesmanship there? Google's like, hey, we can still press a
It's
few
like
buttons in our algorithm. We don't like what you're doing with all this AI stuff. We'll knock you down a
we're
notch.
direct competitors. That's right. Maybe tweak something here to make sure Microsoft goes down. Good eye there, Jared.
I'd
for
say
sure.
I'm sure they didn't, but they are embroiled in antitrust lawsuits as we speak. So I guess nothing's really off limits.
And so what does this mean? Google.com is down.
Okay. I was going to ask you that. Like, in the comments, maybe you can give us an eloquent answer on that one.
Yeah. Somebody look into that. I mean, that's there's a lot of different things that are hosted on Google.com, right? So it would take some deep analysis of because that's not their search page isn't down, right? Obviously.
Yeah. Well, you also have google.co.uk right above that. So
yes, you do.
It's shown up a couple times.
Yeah. So they penalized themselves. Go figure. And then there was a couple of graphs. Well, maybe let's cover the biggest gains. I mean, we better do that.
Got to talk about the biggest positives.
Yeah, let's have some positives. Let's find some sites that did well.
4 out of the top 6 we can't even talk about.
Yeah, that's sort of the one thing that, if you're looking on here, they, I'm kind of glad they do. They block out the domain and just say it's an adult website, which, yeah, a lot of these, as I scroll through these, apparently saw a lot of visibility increase, percentage gain increase. The top one that we can talk about is hmrc.gov.uk, so a government website. Just saw massive traffic increase, 146%. SaveMyExams.com. I don't even know what that site is, but it's a 120% site increase. So let's take a look at this. The examiner written revision resources that improve your grades 2x.
Helping students study effectively and get higher grades. What does it actually do?
Very good question.
Looks like it's a revision. It'll give you revisions on maybe your papers or something.
Yeah. I don't know. Revision notes. Anyways, it looks like it's a big. I don't know. I would have to look into this to see exactly what it is.
All these tools that these young students have at their disposal that we didn't have. Boy.
Oh, I know. I had a calculator and 3-ring binder.
Man, some of my classes didn't even allow me to bring my calculator. They were like, you got to do it by hand.
You got to know how to do this. So that's SaveMyExams.com. Let's see. Is there any others that sort of jump out at us here? ScienceDaily.com, Food.com.
There are some odd ones. I mean, Letras.mus.br, friendsoftheearth.uk. Wouldn't that be .co.uk?
You would think so.
So there's some odd ones there. ResearchGate.
Yeah, up 77%.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also
I guess the one thing to pull out on HMRC. And they say this below the graph there, is it's the forum that really picked up so much of that government domain.
That's right.
And so, in essence, government user-generated content. I mean, you're putting two things we know Google loves. Google, loves government sites historically. And you get a government site that has UGC on it, and bam, you've got the biggest visibility increase out of everything. I mean, it seems like 2024 all over again. Summed up in a nutshell right there.
It is very interesting. Yeah, that their forums is what saw this massive increase. And then, of course, we got to talk about a couple of names that we talk about all the time. We've got the biggest domain gains, the absolute gains.
I'm going to go reheat my coffee for this. Jeez.
Yeah, people can just hit previous episodes on replay here. We got the usual suspects here. We got Reddit.com, a 93% change in the March core update. Unbelievable.
How can
Etsy.com.
how can they keep going up? There's just no more room for them to go up. It's like they've bumped into the ceiling a long time ago.
That's what you would think. There's room to grow, though. We've got Etsy, which I guess we haven't talked about a lot, but they're up 83%. Then Quora.com, which we have talked about, 69% increase. I think you've got all these really large sites, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook,
sites,
Twitter.
I think we talked in previous episodes in past updates how dictionary sites were on the decline. We talked about how they're such a candidate for, search generative experience and Google to just kind of really perhaps not even need them anymore. But collectively, you see a lot of vocabulary.com, yourdictionary.com, wordreference.com, oxfordlearnersdictionary.com, thefreedictionary.com. These all went up this update. So clearly, a dictionary site as a niche went up in this update.
Yeah, and then maybe just one other interesting is that WebMD is up big. Where like Healthline and Mayo Clinic was down. So WebMD.
Yeah, that's a good point. Interesting.
It's a health site that went up. So yeah, Quora and Reddit, obvious winners from the March core and spam update. Big shocker on that one. I don't know. I'm all out of things to say about Reddit.
Yeah, tell me something I don't already know.
So there you go. There's some of the biggest winners, biggest losers of the March core update. And again, if people want to check that out, then go to systrix.com. I actually have some additional data that I'll be sharing. I don't really have it prepared today, but I've been looking at some of the Google publisher success stories. They have a history of publishing, success stories of small website owners, publishers, bloggers. And I took a look at the history of those. It doesn't specifically apply to the March core update, but I have sort of a comparison of where their traffic was, a year ago or whenever their success story was published and where it is today. And so I'll be sharing a video over on the main Niche Pursuits channel on that people can look forward to watching over there. So
I can only imagine how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. There actually were some big winners, but there's a lot of big losers as well.
Yeah, so. I imagine Google's heralded sites of sorts might not have survived any better.
Yeah,
only
they didn't
further cementing the fact that what Google tells us is helpful content now isn't. I mean, odd.
Yeah, exactly. So. Okay, so a couple of people that have loud voices about the March core update. One is over at HouseFresh.com. Giselle Navarro. She wrote the big piece that we covered a few months ago about how essentially Google is killing these small individual review websites, of which they are, right? In their example back a few months ago, they talked about reviewing air purifiers and how they're very hands-on. They're public with their data that they've actually tested all these units. And then a bunch of large news publications are outranking them now and have, in their words, no data to back that up. They don't really have any evidence to show that they're hands-on. It's kind of boilerplate reviews where they're very, HouseFresh is, they have a methodology that's well documented and appears to show that firsthand expertise. Well, they have a follow-up and basically says, here's the title. HouseFresh has virtually disappeared from Google search results. Now what? They say 2 months ago, we sounded the alarm about independent publishers being demoted on Google to give way to big media sites. This is what happened next. And I'll just scroll to the graph. It's down here that you can see what happened to their traffic. If I can find that, here we go. It's not a pretty graph. It shows in the March core update. I mean, it very obviously is this huge cliff in early March that they went from 4,000 over 3,000 clicks a day, right now down to like 237. And their traffic obviously was much higher even before that, before the helpful content update, because that's kind of what they initially wrote about, is that, hey, our traffic is down big from the helpful content update, and now they've just been demolished. This says, she says that their traffic is down 91%. And I don't know if that's directly from the helpful content update or since, before the, here we go. Google's latest algorithm update led to a 91% loss of search traffic.
Yeah, I was going to say it
HouseFresh.
implied strongly as from the March core update.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take into consideration the losses from the helpful content update that they wrote about 10 weeks ago, as the article said.
Yeah. So, oh man, again, it's just painful to see, right? She goes through sort of specific examples that, hey, it's Reddit and Quora. Then you get a big media site. You might get YouTube, right? You get all these things. And then way down somewhere, you might get an independent, publisher in one little slot here. And they're just in the market that HouseFresh, is in, the niche that they're in. There just isn't a lot of room for these independent publishers, apparently, on Google anymore. And so there's a lot of data here, but it's just a very public story about how painful this March core update has been to a lot of independent publishers.
Mm-hmm. It is, it sums up, I think, a lot of what different people are talking about. And it's not, if you're wondering if it's worth your time, you really should go read it, because they don't just hem and haw about the March core update. That's what we do.
It's our job.
Yeah, that's our job. But they go into a lot of examples. One of the ones they talked about is the -- Meredith technique of swarming, keyword swarming, and they walk through a process for that. They talk about the Forbes.com and exactly why they're ranking so well for pet content. And so there's a lot of examples that she goes into that aren't just kind of core update related, but kind of deep dives of specific topics. I found all that stuff super interesting.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's they found large media websites, large publishers with, lots of authority and history and clout, if you will, have found ways that they can survive in Google and kind of drown out these individual publishers. Like you referenced, the kind of keyword swarming, where they find a little pocket of keywords that does well, and they come in not just with one of their sites, but they come across all of their sites, and they all write articles about this one set of keywords and just drown out all the independent publishers, which Google has not apparently cared to pay attention to or do anything about. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Yeah, and again, I mean, that technique isn't illegal or against the law. It's not like wrong. Many would say that if you were the head of SEO at that company, that's a good thing to be going after. I think that they're just highlighting the ways that these big sites are able to drown small publishers. And that's kind of the theme of this article, is small publishers lose every update. And this is one example, HouseFresh, but really it's happening broad stroke across the board. And it's a problem for a free and open web, as they put it later on in the article. They acknowledge that Google doesn't owe HouseFresh traffic, but this is really more of an expression about what it looks like to have a free and open web and how this is moving further and further away from it.
Right. When certain players in an industry have an upper hand based on their authority, their links, whatever that may be, it's an unfair advantage that Google is not really paying attention to. And one reason this is so important is because Google puts on this public image that they support small publishers, they support creative writing, they support bloggers, individual creators. That is absolutely the messaging that they put out by their PR team, is that, hey, Google supports, the individual creator. And that's why they have this Google Publisher Success Stories that I kind of referenced. They have this whole thing on their domain that highlights these individual creators, right? It's not big media brands that can publish their success stories, right? It's the individual blogger, the creator. And if there's this sort of unfair advantage, that Google isn't paying attention to. I mean, they absolutely are crushing the individual publisher. And so that's the story with HouseFresh. In the exact same vein and the same tone, Marie Haynes goes one step further beyond, what they're saying over at HouseFresh and even what I'm saying here. And Marie is making a public plea to Google and saying, "Dear Google, please do more to help the website owners impacted by HCU and March Core." And goes on. "Dear Google, if you are reading this, I'd ask you to do more to help the business owners who have been impacted by the March Core update in September, helpful content updates, to understand what is happening or what direction to take." And I'm going to just keep reading because the first couple paragraphs are just so good. It says, "I know so many good, hardworking people who are struggling immensely right now and have no idea what to do. One of my friends is a recipe blogger. She worked hard to learn SEO and created a really nice recipe website. It was her passion. She made enough money with this website to be the sole income earner in her family and allow her spouse to retire. Her site was obliterated by the September helpful content update. She studied your documentation. She worked hard to improve, all the time not knowing what to work on, and was full of hope that the March Core update would turn things around. It did not." And then there's an image of a graph that is just showing this person's traffic getting completely obliterated. And it's hard to see the numbers, but it looks like she was getting something like 10,000 visitors a day and is now down to, maybe a couple of hundred.
That would be what the
this.
HouseFresh graph would look like if they had pulled it back out with the
Yes.
HCU. I mean,
Yeah.
but Spencer, isn't that odd that all the graphs look the exact same? You just
It
take
is
out
a
the
little bit odd.
numbers and they all look
Yep.
pretty much the exact same. It feels so punitive.
It feels very punitive. And so Marie Haynes just really making kind of a public plea, which is really unusual because Marie, as she states in her article, has usually been a Google cheerleader, somebody that has always sort of said, Google is great. Google does so many good things. And she continues to kind of say this, hey, Google is doing a lot of things. I'm excited for the future. I'm also excited. All these things going on, these breakthroughs, technology, Google search can and will get better. But she doesn't know what to tell her clients. Google doesn't tell anybody what to do with their site's traffic that's been impacted. And she's trying to just echo this statement that true individual creators, people that are in their kitchens, creating unique recipes, making the food, taking pictures of it, getting their hands, quote unquote, dirty, and then writing the articles. Like, these are hard-working individual bloggers and creators that have just been decimated to now be outranked by what? US News and World Report on, whatever recipe they feel like writing about. It's kind of ridiculous.
And again, we go back to the fact, if you rewind to a couple weeks ago where you and I tangentially went off on this, but Google got themselves into this problem by creating it in the first place, by ranking big sites that didn't have any business ranking for a certain topic and pushing the small publishers down that's for specific topics. By and large, many people wanted more on the ground, real world experience. That's why they started appending user-generated content like Reddit to the end of their query. They were trying to get a more realistic result to their question. That's what started all this. And then now we end up with either Reddit or a big site and nobody else in the SERPs. It's almost this circle jerk reaction that didn't really resolve what most people were originally intending when this all got started a while ago.
Yeah, I tell you what, Jared, you and I need to be in the boardroom with the CEO so we can explain, hey, you want a good PR story here, maybe start actually supporting individual creators. That's somebody that the public can get behind and cheer because they understand and appreciate. All these large companies, these no-name, Dotdash, Meredith brands that are ranking just because I don't know why they've been around so long. Anyways, so much that we could say on the topic. I wish Google would listen to us a little bit more, but that is what has happened with the March Core update. there have been some winners, but a lot of losers, and unfortunately, no recovery from the helpful content update. So,
hey everyone, Spencer here, founder of the Niche Pursuits podcast. Last year, the traffic to nichepursuits.com more than tripled, with most of those gains coming from Google. In fact, I finally hit the 1 million page views per month milestone. In order to achieve this growth, my team and I publish over 100 articles a month. The final step for each of those articles? We build at least one new internal link to that article using Link Whisper. This helps index it faster and helps it rank better in Google. This also helps us avoid having any orphaned posts in the future. If you want to give your new articles the best chance possible, you need to build a process around internal linking when you publish. It only takes a few seconds with Link Whisper to get suggestions and check the box next to the internal links you want. They are all built automatically once you've made your selections. No need to go into each article, find a relevant sentence, highlight the anchor text, and add the internal link. Link Whisper does all this automatically once you've made your selection. If you want to try out Link Whisper, just head over to linkwhisper.com and use coupon code podcast at checkout in order to get $15 off.
having said all that, we do need to move on to our shiny object shenanigans, a couple of side projects, maybe a little bit more lighthearted, if you will, things that are not our main business, so we can stop talking about Google just for a little bit.
No Google allowed in this segment.
That's right. This is no Google allowed. So I'll start. I don't have like a huge update, but it's been at least a few weeks since I've shared kind of an update on my Amazon influencer program in terms of earnings. I talked about my YouTube channel that's tied to that. But as far as Amazon influencer, I've been pretty happy. Like, it still just continues to earn on its own. I haven't really done anything for the entire year. We're now in May. And I did post a few new videos this year, but they were more basically videos that were recorded last year. We finally got around, I don't remember when it was, February or something. We kind of uploaded those. But in the last 30 days, I'm at right around $1,700 in earnings. And I'm really happy with that, right? Like, things are still clipping along well, earning $50, $60, $70 a day, and really no effort on my part. So it's been pretty passive, pretty happy with it. I'm gonna just kind of let it keep doing its thing here. I'm happy if it's between the $1,500 and $2,000 a month, I think, at this point. And so yeah, that's kind of just my quick update, if you will.
I have a question for you, just maybe devil's advocate, just because I'm curious. I mean, you just got done giving a presentation at the Alt-G online conference about outsourcing and how you've figured out how to outsource that, succeeded with it. I watched your presentation inside the Niche Pursuits community, which was even longer and more involved, about how you've kind of outsourced, figured out how to get the ad going, all that kind of stuff. It's cash flow positive. Why not continue to invest in it? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I probably should, other than it is a shiny object, right? So for right now, I'm trying to focus more on my main thing. So maybe in a month or two, I'll come back and find a little bit of time and go, you know what, maybe it's time to restart that outsourced engine. It doesn't take a lot of work. It really doesn't, but it's just
it is an ode to the point that nothing is truly passive, and even small things add up and do take time, to be fair.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Like we were talking about before the show, I just spent a few days out at the Grand Canyon, hiked the Grand Canyon with my family. And so it's like I get a few things like that on my schedule, and it's like, okay, well, I definitely got to focus on my main business, get that taken care of. And at some point, maybe I'll have a little bit of time to relook at this. But for now, super happy with the way it's going.
Well, there you go, folks. We don't just spend all of our time on side hustles, even if it seems like it's some episodes.
That's right. So I think you wanted to provide a little update as well on Amazon Influencer.
I feel a little awkward talking now. I feel like I ought to just skip it now. I feel a little embarrassed.
Go for it. I can take it. We
were commiserating beforehand about why this is, to be clear. I don't really know because I've only uploaded a handful of videos in 2024. In April, I did upload, what's the number here? 39 new videos. So it's something, right? And I did upload videos where I know you didn't upload any in April, but I certainly wouldn't consider it like I went on a bender and, filmed another 150 videos in the month or something. But April came in at over $4,000 for me in earnings.
Wow.
Just under 4,100 is the final tally. And now March was just under $4,000. So this was actually up a tiny bit.
Wow.
But I mean, again, in the grand scheme of things, I have right now 1,125 videos live. So I added 39. I mean, what is that? A 2 to 3% increase in the number of videos. I don't think that was one of the trending reasons for why it performed so well, but it's been really good for about 2 months now. Both March and April were really good. I don't know exactly why it's doing so well compared to yours, because you and I have tended to be somewhat similar for the most part as we hit Q3 and Q4.
Yeah. Now, and I at one point we had talked about like how many clicks a day you're getting, and I think we were pretty similar. I'm getting 500-ish
I'm
clicks
getting
a day.
500.
I don't know if you know.
Yep, 500 to 550 a day. I had that data up just in case you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. So interesting. So we're getting the same amount of clicks, but maybe you just have higher priced products that are selling, right?
If we're getting the same amount of clicks, then it has to come down to the amount. What's your conversion percentage that Amazon tells you? What's it roughly? Mine's roughly 20% or so.
Mine's at about 15%.
Okay, so a little bit higher conversion percentage.
Yep.
But not enough to more than double. Mine's not more than double yours, but my earnings are more than double yours. So it's got to be higher priced products.
I think so. It's got to be. I was gonna. Anyways, we would have to look at the data, but I would assume that is the reason that you're selling more high priced products. So, which is awesome. That's good. Just for
So
people that
I'm
are
trying to think. I do have some videos about some high priced products. I mean, what do we call high priced? I mean, there's kind of, in my mind, there's the $100 to $1,000 product, right? And then there are some of those that are over $1,000.
Yes.
And you notice that when someone buys it, you notice it when you wake up in the morning, you're like, whoa, you're like, why did I just make, for me, I had a couple $200 days, and you're like, whoa, what happened? And it's like $50 on a $2,500 purchase kind of thing,
Yeah. So kudos to you. That's good. That's exciting. And I guess the one other thing that I'll just interject here is that both you and I did do a full video on this as part of the Niche Pursuits community. We did a call with the Niche Pursuits community, and that got a lot of people fired up within the community. And we kind of have a private Discord chat of people specifically have now started Amazon influencer businesses. It's cool to see the success that they're starting to have. We're having people, making $100 here, getting their first, commissions. A bunch of accounts are getting approved. And so people are quickly getting up and running just in the last month or two with the Amazon influencer program, kind of based on what you and I shared in the community. So of course, we recorded those calls. If people want to go check those out, they can just go over to community.nichepursuits.com.
They're also testing things out that you and I have never tested out. So I'm enjoying reading about the things they're testing to see if it's something that I should try going forward. I mean, it's cool.
Kind of got a whole group now sharing ideas and doing different things.
It's great. Well, I'll share an update as well on my newest project. I feel like that's probably going to be something I share about almost every week now. I did commit to starting a newsletter. And I actually started two, because as I said last week, why start one when you can start two? So I have newsletter number 1 and newsletter number 2. We'll just kind of call them that going forward. Okay. Newsletter 1 was, go figure, the one I started first. And newsletter 2 was the one that I started second. So if you're referencing back to previous podcasts, we'll just call them that going forward. I'm putting most of my effort into newsletter number 2, mainly because it's getting the most traction out of the gate. That's just kind of what I do. That's why I like to have 2 different options. Can you imagine if I'd only started with newsletter number 1, I never would have even seen that newsletter 2 is seemingly taking off quicker. But anyways, that's a different story. So some of the things I've talked about, I'll just give an update. I was hoping to have broken 1,000 Facebook page likes. I'm at 965. And so I did start that. Very close, very close. So again, I started a Facebook page for this website with the goal of using the Facebook page to advertise for new leads. And those new leads would become email subscribers and then would get the content that the newsletter had. So I started that Facebook page probably 1.5 weeks ago. We're up to almost 1,000 page likes, running a page like campaign. And I asked you last week, I think last week I was at about 7 cents per page like. I asked you, you said anything below 5 is good in your book. You've gotten it as low as 3. Well, now we're down to 4.6 cents per like now. And that's historically. So the last week has been even lower to take into account the 7 cents average before that. So I kind of at this price will probably continue to let it run for a bit of time. I mean, I'm thinking at least 10,000 followers to kind of substantiate that Facebook page, to give me more opportunity for organic clicks and organic traffic from future posts and stuff. But yeah, we're getting that down to 4.6 cents per like now.
That's excellent. That's really, really good.
Okay, started the ads campaign on Tuesday. And so we're recording this on a Thursday. So I've had 2 days since the Facebook lead ad has been going live. I'm running 2 of them just to kind of split test. And at this point, I have 29 email subscribers after 2 days. And I'm paying on one campaign, I'm paying $1.01 on average per new lead. And on the other campaign, I'm paying 89 cents on average per new lead. So one's doing a little bit better, obviously. That one's the newer one of the 2. And so, yeah, 29 email subscribers, 29 people have gotten the free lead magnet and are already off to the races and getting the first email from the email funnel we've created.
So, question about your lead magnet, like how big of a giveaway is it? Was it pretty easy to create? Is it just like a little PDF or what is it?
Well, again, newsletter number 2 is based on a content website that I owned that had gotten hit, that we owned at 201 Creative, that had gotten hit by the HCU. And that website had probably 400 or 500 articles on it. And so what we did is we created an ebook, 50, you get 50 of these for free in this ebook. And we pulled that from the different articles and kind of pieced it together, got it designed. So it's really pretty looking, really big images, go figure. We used an image forward approach, given my background. And it's a download that you get. It's a free ebook download that you get. All you have to do, because Facebook lead ads make it so you don't even have to leave Facebook to get this.
Right.
You don't have to go to my website or anything like that. You just do it right there in Facebook and you get access to that PDF.
Cool. That's good. I mean, it sounds like
it's not a great lead gen piece to be clear. Like there's so many things I think that would be more valuable, but I wanted to get off the ground and that was the easiest thing to get off the ground with. So
yeah, that's great.
Doing all right.
Yeah, you've got a nice Facebook page with 1,000 followers. That's a solid start, and 29 email subscribers. So here we are. We're in the early days. We'll keep checking in future weeks.
Here's the fun thing. 2 of those 29 email subscribers, I was talking to Caitlin about it, and I think this is a good sign. 3 of them, she noticed, had gotten the lead, had taken advantage of the Facebook ad and gotten the piece through Facebook's lead ad, but then went over to our website, found our website, and went over to our website. And on the front page of our website is a big call to action to join the newsletter, and then submitted their information there again because they wanted to join our newsletter to make sure that they got our content. And so that over 10% of the people have done that thus far. Again, very small numbers, but I thought that was cool. That means, it seems it had to provide some value if they sought us
People were
out
interested
on our email list.
Yeah, that is cool. It's an interesting little stat.
So feeling pretty good so far about this. I mean, we are early days, but feeling pretty good so far. So $1 per lead, 4.5 cents per page like. Those are numbers that I'm very comfortable with. If we can keep that up.
Cool. Well, very good. We'll keep following you until we take this thing to the moon. So
there we go.
We're excited. Okay, so let's talk about our weird niche sites. We have a few minutes here where we can each talk about one weird niche site that we found. This one that I will share is how do I explain this? Let me just share the website, because the main website actually really has nothing to do with like the subfolder that I'm going to talk about. So it's secretfanbase.com/banana. And I just want to talk about the /banana. Okay, so they have like this whole unique like website that's just a subdirectory for the Abandoned Republic, a journey through the vintage Banana Republic catalog. So I didn't know all this. I don't follow the Banana Republic that closely, right?
I do like their
So
clothing.
yeah, but apparently in 1988, Banana Republic travel and safari concept was scrapped by its corporate masters at Gap, right? And so, which maybe was just like a specific line of their clothing. I don't know, but it's just saying, hey, there was the classic 1978 to 1988 Banana Republic travel and safari catalog that is no more. And they've come in and they've found old, images of it. They've recreated what they can to kind of bring back this original, merchandise and articles and pictures from Banana Republic. Now, the Banana Republic brand itself never died. It continued to live on, right? And it's grown. But apparently, in my brief reading of this, like it's become a much more mass-produced brand instead of its original concept. It was more unique and high-end and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, I can just click on some of these things. You can just look at some of the artwork and
what a fascinating story. I'm reading at the bottom after, they basically got, you're right, 1983, they got bought by Gap, and the head of Gap at the time had a hands-off agreement that promised total creative freedom. And so the infusion of money and manufacturing power of Gap led to them growing explosively. They have lavishly decorated safari stores. But then after 5 years of success, a fading safari trend. Was safari fashion ever a trend? I don't know. A stock market crash and new management. It pushed the Zieglers out of their beloved company, and slowly but surely Banana Republic became much more of a mainstay American. They called it a sportswear company. I would call it more of a general company, I guess. But anyways, wow, yeah. I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, neither did I. And as you've been talking, I've just been scrolling through sort of their original catalogs, right? You can see all their safari gear. And I guess just there's this secret fan base, if you will, that just loves the original Banana Republic. And this website also has somewhere you can browse actual clothing and maybe surplus items from Banana Republic. Let's see. Anyways, they may have some links like to eBay.
The very bottom
or something.
footer link is what you're looking for. The very bottom footer link. All the way down. All the way down. Keep going down. Keep going down.
I'm down at the bottom.
Oh, you can go further. It's the very last link. It's got all this stuff for sale.
Yeah. So maybe I'm not seeing it on my screen, but I believe you.
Maybe it's off. Yeah.
Yeah. But so the site itself, it doesn't really, get a ton of traffic, right? If I go over to Ahrefs, this subdirectory /banana, it's 392 traffic. But it's just kind of this unique story that somebody has put a lot of time into kind of recreating this sort of catalog, this Banana Republic experience. And I mean, we don't have a lot of time to go into it, but if I just go to secretfanbase.com itself, it has nothing to do with the Banana Republic. This is Robin Adams' design and illustration. So maybe this is just one of his sort of portfolio items where he can point people to say, hey, look what I did. I kind of recreated some of this Banana Republic, feel. He does graphic design, illustration, website, animation. So totally unrelated to the Banana Republic, but he's got this whole cool, or she's got this whole cool subdirectory. So
what a labor of love. You're right. There's a ton of effort that got put into it.
Yeah. So that's my weird niche site. Maybe we'll just move on to yours. since we don't have a ton of time.
When I first saw the URL in our agenda, it just said secretfanbase.com/banana. And so I thought maybe you found a website that was just like odes to different fruits and how people are secretly obsessed with it or something.
There you go. Like banana fans, this is your site.
Grape fans and coconut fans, and I was just thinking,
oranges? This is the site for you.
That obviously wasn't the site, but hey, wouldn't that be a weird niche?
Somebody come up with that one. I mean, we did have a weird Apple website, if you remember. We had one that rated all the different apples.
Oh my goodness, that's right.
In a comedic way. You could dedicate a whole site to bananas.
That was a great site. Remember?
That was a great
We
site.
found all these apples we never even heard of before.
I think it was appleratings.com.
Oh, that was a good one. I remember they accurately put the Red Delicious apple in the bottom.
That's not it. But it's something like Apple ratings. Anyways, we digress.
We digress. My weird niche. I'll just pause a moment of silence. Thank you for the listener who gave this to me. I had one listener contribute after all the shaming I took last week for stealing one of Spencer's. I got one. Thank you. But I'm hoping for a few more, to be quite honest with you. Not sure how my poll is here on this podcast. But thank you. So the weird niche is passportwaitingtime.co.uk. And so, as you can imagine, this exact match domain is exactly what you think it is. How long does it take to get a passport? Now, obviously, this is for the UK, and it's about passport waiting times. They're doing some things kind of interesting here, though. They are relying on, from what I can tell from reading, user-generated support to get these passport waiting times. It says they have a passport forum. Now, I don't know. I guess maybe people who are passionate about passports are just really interested in learning about where it's at right now. Go join their forum. But it says join our community and read about other passport applicants' experiences. Find out how quickly different passport offices are processing passports. And so it says on the homepage, our website uses this information by asking recent passport applicants and calculates an average, which is updated daily. Whilst it is not precise, it will certainly give you some idea of how long you may need to wait. We calculate an average of the last 31 days of user tweets and website submissions to display a figure in days. So, it's helpful.
Fascinating.
I would imagine it was helpful. I mean, I've had to get a passport quickly one time. We booked a trip, and then thankfully one of us in the family, not me, had the idea to check our passports for expiration, and mine had expired. I ended up just paying the expedited fee because I didn't want to chance it. So to some degree, I suppose you're kind of wondering how long it's going to take, and you're going to use a site like this. But I can think of scenarios where that would be really important. I mean, if you need a passport, you need a passport. There's kind of no way around that. So in terms of kind of how they're doing ranking wise, they're doing better than your site. Your weird niche was. They're a DR27, so nothing to write home about. They're ranking for about 2,000 keywords, just over 3,000 per month in organic search traffic. I think it's interesting when you go to the pages, the top pages there, you can see that they're ranking for much more than just their homepage. It's all of these forums are, go figure, ranking pretty well for some of these queries. The bulk of the traffic is to the homepage, to be perfectly fair, but they do have all these forums that they do have indexed, and they, as you would imagine, they're ranking.
Yeah. You can see that a lot of the forum pages are ranking there. Interesting. Obviously, UK traffic, right? I mean, it's only if you're in the UK does this really matter. So maybe they could replicate this across different countries. I don't know.
I mean, it would seem like they could, and I would say also that they've had their share of ups and downs, as you're showing right there, and it's been quite the journey for them. But I mean, again, at a DR27, it's not something that really is, hasn't gotten a lot of backlinks over the years, but I think that certainly, especially as user-generated content has come into vogue, it seems to have kind of mirrored with them going up and in previous, last couple updates.
Yeah, and I was just looking at how they're monetized. On previous pages, there was definitely display ads. But if you go into their departure lounge, You can buy all your holiday essentials, and they have a bunch of Amazon, buttons, a bunch of affiliate links. You can buy Amazon passport holders, travel wallets, carry-ons, packing cubes, luggage, all sorts of things. So maybe they're making a little bit there too.
I checked because this is one of those sites that's ripe for, we would see a lot of times, we've featured it on the podcast, where they would go in and add a bunch of, best affiliate style articles, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm an expert. I'm topically authoritative in Google's mind on passports, which must mean I'm an expert on general travel. So I'm going to write about the best resorts in Cancun. And perhaps that's why they didn't get slaughtered in one of these updates. They've kind of stayed on point to some degree,
Stayed in their lane. Yeah.
They stayed in their lane. I don't know. So, as have plenty of sites, by the way, that got slaughtered. I know. But anyways, I kind of half expected to see some of these best, roller boards for airplane kind of articles, and I didn't see them. So.
Well, I think the bottom line is, hey, we do these weird niche sites to kind of inspire and spotlight and show what is possible, or just to spark an idea. So hopefully that sparks an idea for somebody out there, whether it's, related to passports or it's related to old brands like the Banana Republic or whatever it is. Hopefully it just kind of sparks an idea for you for listening. If nothing else, maybe it was a little bit entertaining.
Or a general banana fan club.
Or that's right. Somebody do that. Let us know. We will definitely feature that here on the podcast in the Weird Niche site section. So having said all that, it has been entertaining for me once again, Jared. Hopefully the listeners enjoyed this. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the podcast today.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the Niche Pursuits podcast. I just wanted to remind you that if you are ready to start building smarter, faster, and easier internal links, you should check out Link Whisper. You can get $15 off Link Whisper when you use the coupon code PODCAST at checkout. Head over to linkwhisper.com and use the code PODCAST in order to save $15. Thanks again for listening.